We could have had multiple guest speakers up here, but I asked Mario to come and speak. His story is incredible, transformation's incredible. And a plug for our church here, what Dr. Ramsey talked about as a whole, at Young Overcomers, we help young people, but this church helps everybody from infants to 90-year-olds. What does prevention look like? This place here on a Wednesday night where there's a couple hundred young people having fun on a Christ-centered night. From infant to 90-year-olds. We have a car ministry right next door that the parts are donated to, and people, single parents, grandparents, people that don't have the means to get their car fixed, to get to church and help somebody, they fix it for free. Right next door, Pastor Mark, there's over 600 families that can get fed a month or on a list for the food bank. The church is closed down once a year to go out into the community and do an outreach. They fix projects beyond projects beyond projects. This center right here is to open up to Westmoreland County. This facility right here, the senior pastor wants us to fill it with a hurting, dying Westmoreland County in the drug and alcohol world. There's multiple problems. We can all come together and have a facility to battle hell. That's what this is for. This is not for an inclusive YOU program, inclusive Cornerstone program. This is for Westmoreland County. If we look at it as a whole in the United States, it's overwhelming. If we look at it as a state problem, it's overwhelming. We can battle right here. If my people who are called by my name will pray and humble themselves, I will heal their land. Their land is what they possess, their home. Take it to the next level, your neighbors, take it to the next level. We can heal this land because we're called to pray. Back of this shirt, P3, Parents Praying for Parents. All these parents have been Arcanon, Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, His-Anon, Ur-Anon. Everybody got a non-non. Number one thing in 19 years the phone rang for, number one, is for prayer. Across the board, the number one phone call, hey, can you pray for us? Can you put us on a prayer chain? People that have never been in a church, can you pray? Our parents that are here, they pray for one another. No general prayers. Hey, can you help my kid? Very, very specific prayers. You should see the miracles. Everyone's invited the first and third Monday of the month if you're a parent in need. If you're a parent that wants to help, please come. You're welcome. But Mario, make your way up here. This is a good friend of mine, Mario, and give him a hand. And I told Mario, he said, how much time do I got? I said, you got 5 minutes. He said, I need at least 10. I said, you got 8. He said, I can't do it. I said, stay home. I got him. I got your original mugshot, too. No, you ain't. This is Mario. I love him to death. And seriously, you got people 7.
We bust this out real quick to get my stuff organized. Big Joe asked me if I could share a little bit about myself. More importantly, what God's done in my life. From where He's brought me to, I'm just humbled to even be here. You know, even though my mom and dad they separated at a young age, me and my brothers we always felt loved. You know, we came from a family of love. We'd stay with my mom. My dad would get us on the weekend. And my mom was a churchgoer, you know, always going to church, so taking us to church. And I used to hate to go to church when I was a kid, you know. I always thought it was boring. Here's some boring message, some old people's music, you know what I mean? The only thing I got out of church was like a sore butt from sitting on them horror pews, you know. So my perception of God was that if He's even real, that I seen Him as distant like some old grandfather, you know. He got too many rules, too strict. So I really didn't want nothing to do with that, so I kind of turned my back on him. And started cutting up in school, you know. I wanted to be liked by my peers just like everyone else. And I found myself basing my self-worth not on what I thought, but what other people's perception was of me. So, you know, I was getting in trouble, suspended, started smoking weed in 6th grade. By 13, I was getting drunk and high almost every weekend. By 15, I was lost, you know. I was getting in trouble with the law, selling drugs, using them. My relationship with my family was going astray, especially between me and my father. I kind of cut off contact, stopped going over there. And At the end of my 9th grade year, I ended up getting arrested one day at school, and took me to Schumann. And from there, I got locked up. I went to a juvenile placement for a year. Even though I was in there, I was still getting high. I got my brother to bring me up some weed on a visit and stuff, so I wasn't changing. I got out, within 10 weeks, I got locked back up again. And went to the county, then I went to another placement for a year. I came out, I was 17, and I was snorting cocaine, I was selling cocaine. It wasn't like no Tony Montana or nothing, you know what I mean? I was small time. But all my buddies were making money selling these fake drugs at these big parties, these raves. So I figured, this isn't where I can fit in. So I was making good money, like hundreds of dollars in a couple hours. And I thought I was the man, I had girls, I had drugs, I had money. I had a good name for myself, people knew who I was. All these things I thought I needed as a kid to really be happy I had, but I was still empty inside. So I tried to fill it with more and more. Still left me feeling low. And towards the end of my senior year, I was going to rob this one guy. Nothing new, I was going to get him for $quarter of bud, that's $60 worth. And the situation escalated and ended up cutting him with a razor blade. And I cut him on his neck. And luckily, man, his buddy was with him. He was able to rush him to the hospital. And I was praying then that 911 prayer, like, God, please don't let him die. Please don't let him die. It wasn't even that I cared about him. Like, I didn't want my life to be ruined. I didn't want to go to jail for the rest of my life, for at least 20 years. And by God's grace, he lived. I got bailed out. I put my mom through hell, man. Didn't want me to leave the house. People were riding around looking for me. But I had that pride, like, F them dudes, I'm going to go out, this is my neighborhood, still doing the same stuff. Man, I figured I was getting locked up, so I really didn't care. I was facing 8 to 10 years. Trial came up, but God had different plans, By his grace, I beat the major charges. I basically lied about it, but after that, I still didn't change, because I didn't really have that purpose, I seen to have sex, to get money, to get high, to cause problems. That was like the point of life. Like God was so distant at this time, it was like I was so blinded. Within a year later, I got arrested again, same stuff, robbery, aggravated assault. I could go on and on, but basically from the time I was 14 to 29, I was somewhere in the system, whether it was juvenile, probation, adult, locked up the county here or there. And started going out to the clubs and bars and that stuff. I found myself worth in that. Like, it's the weekend, I'm going to get smashed. I'm going to try to hook up with some girls, and, that's how I found my purpose. And ended up getting a girl pregnant, and I didn't want to be the dad, I'm 21, man. I don't got that responsibility. I really didn't get along with the girl. And as ashamed as I am to say it, I prayed to God, the God I never really followed or wanted much to do with, that she'd have a miscarriage. Because I didn't want my own child's blood on my hands. I wanted to justify it. It's effed up, but, that's what it was. And she ended up getting an abortion, and I tried to justify, like, well, that ain't your fault. You didn't pay for it. You didn't take her there, But I knew that was wrong. Of all the stuff I did, that was really the only thing that really bothered me. Like, if I hurt people and that, I figured if you were in the game, then you could get hurt. That's just a part of the rules. But this was something totally different. Not too long after that, I had a vivid dream one night, and I felt a total separation that's indescribable. And I felt so alone, and that God was telling me, like, this is where you're going to end up if you don't change. And I woke up scared, For the first time in my life, I had, like, the fear of God in me. And I started thinking about it over weeks. I'm going to start going back to church just to try to justify the way I'm living. I'll go to Mass for 45 minutes once or twice a month, and then I'm good. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But God just pursues your heart relentlessly. And he started convicting my heart little by little. Ended up meeting a girl named Mary. And when I met Mary, she just got out of being locked up herself, because she comes from a bad background with a bad family, drug use and all that. And we made a great couple, We were both on a course to crash. But so she starts coming to church with me, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. Eventually, she wanted to join the church. And there's this process you got to go through. And it's like a 7-month process. I don't know at the time, but someone needs a sponsor to go. So whatever, I'll be your sponsor. And basically, you go to church and you go to this class to learn about the teachings of God and all this stuff. And it was through that process that I really experienced Jesus Christ. I never really believed that Jesus existed, you know. It was like 2,000 years ago, he died for my sins. I don't really get that. I don't understand it. But when I realized the history that Jesus really existed, you know, people can debate whether he resurrected from the grave, but you can't deny that he existed and he was on this earth. And for me, that was like the proof that I needed. All the stuff that I heard when I was a kid, it was like, it's real, you know. And it was like a light came on, and I realized I don't fully understand it, but because of my sin, that separates me from God. See, God's too pure and holy to turn a blind eye to my sin. So a penalty has to be paid. And that sin affects him so much that that penalty is death. And that seems like, that's cold. But in the love that he had is that Jesus Christ, God himself, took my penalty, took my place for all the hurt and all the pain that I did, that God, you would die for me. And it was like, for the first time in my life, I felt a peace and a joy that's indescribable. And I didn't change overnight, you know, but I knew that God had a plan for me. He was convicting my heart, you know. I was reading in his word, and I got overwhelmed. Like, God, I want to follow you, but it's too hard. I got to stop smoking weed. I got to stop having sex. I got to stop committing all these crimes. But I felt God tell me, like, don't focus on all the things that you can't do. Focus on me, and I'll show you what you can do. I'll show you the things you no longer have to do. Because all these things I was a slave to. You know, the money, the drugs, the sex, the pornography, all that stuff, the pride. I was a slave to that stuff. And by God's grace, when I realized that Jesus died for me, that he loved me, that he cared for me that much, it just changed my world. And it was a process, you know, it didn't happen overnight. But through the times, through perseverance and through prayer and through just loved ones, I had a lot of great people in my life, man. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't even be here. My mom used to tell me that whenever she got a phone call at night, she was always worried, either that they found me or that I was back in trouble with the law. Whenever I got arrested, she said that she felt good, because not good, but she knew I was safe. And I just think of like what I put her through, man. My mom's a saint. And the way that life worked out, God was convicting me that I told Mary, like, look, we got to stop having sex, you know, because this is wrong. And you know, we didn't stop the first time. We go a little bit backslide, you know, but by God's grace, for 4 years before we got married, we stopped having sex. And we were like rabbits on a wedding night, you know what I mean? But it just made it so much pure and so much holy, man, just to see that, you know, that God can take me away from that temptation. There's nothing through his grace that I can't overcome. Like the drugs ain't nothing, you know, all this stuff, the pride, and I could brag all night about what God's done in my life, man. The way that it worked out, we got married, ended up getting a house for dirt cheap. I got my mom's old house, ended up getting 3 great job offers. This is after years of perseverance, trying to be obedient to God. These are like nice jobs, union jobs. Because of my record, it was hard to get stuff. I took the job. Within a month, we found out that she was pregnant, and after a year trying. And just because you become a Christian doesn't mean that life's easy, doesn't mean that stuff's sweet, you know. Life sucks sometimes. You know, you have hard days and there's hard trials to get through. But I know I have the confidence that whether I'm making $10 an hour or $30 an hour, that God would take care of me. As long as I'm being obedient to him and I'm trying to surrender him daily, and he has, you know. Just like in addiction, whenever you get healed from something, sometimes it takes time to heal. If you have a major surgery, it may still take weeks, months, even years to heal. You know, we got consequences from our actions and our sins. But just to give hope and encouragement, man, not to give up. You know, to focus on what God has called you to, that God cares for each and every individual that much, that he died for us. You put that first picture up. Got it up there. Look at that dude, man. He thinks he's a gangster. I was like 19, out on bail, you know, and I was just headed for hell, man. Thought I was a tough dude. I was really just a little punk, you know. Put the other picture up. Well, that's real life, man. Like, my beautiful wife, Mary, my 2 boys, Enrico and Santino. And God is about transforming and changing a life. I used to think the Bible was about rules and regulations, but it's not. It's about transforming a life, and there's freedom. And God can set you free from all things. Just have faith in him. And if you never took the time to believe in him, I just pray, man, that you open up your heart to God. If today you hear his voice, heart or not your heart, just surrender to him. And I thank you for your time.
Wow, Thank you so much. Thank you. That's a young overcomer.